Hello everyone and welcome to Politics Today on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale in Lagos. A former chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FRS, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, is under interrogation at the Lagos office of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. His invitation may not be unconnected with the petition written by Mr. Dapo Akpara, a former managing director and CEO of Alpha Beta, who had accused the company of 100 billion naira tax fraud. The spokesperson of the EFCC, Mr. Wilson Wajaren, to China Television that he could not tell when the questioning would be over. Mr. Fowler was the executive chairman of Lagos State Board of Internal Revenue and the chief executive officer of the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, LRS. It's been some online agitation which took to the street. We saw those agitation risen to the point that a lot of Nigerians have now realized that there is a need to act on some of the inadequacies in the nation's structure. So, the Nigerian youth's voice were heard loud and clear, and some NNN Nigerians say there is an urgent need to fix the politics of Nigeria. Tonight, our conversation is about the state of the nation, the governance architecture of the country, and how we can deal with what has become a very worrying state of our polity. So we're speaking with an eminent Nigerian, a former minister, will be speaking to us tonight. But first, let's check out some of your stories that we're following for you on our political roundup.
After weeks of agitation by the NSAS protesters and the consequent disbandment of the squad, personnel of the new Police Special Weapons and Tactics Unit, who've been undergoing fresh training in tactical skills in Nasarawa State, have been asked to be good ambassadors of the force. The charge is coming from the Minister of Police Affairs during a visit to the officers at the Police Mobile Training College in the state. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice says the consolidation of the Federal Capital Territory Court sentencing guidelines in practice would help accelerate decongestion of correctional centers in the country. Speaking at the signing of the Consolidated FCT Courts Practice Direction 2020 in Abuja, the minister says the introduction of non-custodial sentences by the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015 and more recently, the provision of a clear legislative and institutional framework for their implementation by the Nigerian Correctional Service Act 2019 are efforts by the federal government to address the problem of congestion in correctional facilities across the country. And the NDDC is back in the news. This time, 94 postgraduate Nigerian students are protesting against the non-payment of their fees and upkeep at the Nigerian High Commission in London. The students, who are of the 2018 batch of NDDC's scholarship program, say no funds have been released for their scholarship for 2 years now, after being verified twice, despite the directive from the president.
Thank you so much, everyone. So in the past weeks, Nigeria being there have been eventful weeks for Nigeria, and leaders across the nation, Nigerians generally, are already drawing lessons from the incidents that have happened over the past few days and what it portends for the nation's future. Governors of the 19 northern states have met today with the Inspector General of Police, Chief of Staff to the President, Senate President, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, and other political leaders, as well as traditional rulers. The meeting, which was held behind closed doors at the Kaduna State Government House, was called to, among other things, review the recent NSAS protests and the security challenges across the country, particularly in the northern region of the country. The Inspector General of Police was invited to brief the meeting on the efforts to contain the current security challenges, especially issues arising from the NSAS protests in the north and other parts of the country. Some of the leaders say they have realized that the nation needs to take action on some of the agitations and yearnings of several years. The governor of Kaduna State put it succinctly on the sideline of that meeting.
The need for closer collaboration between the Nigerian police and the governors to enhance community policing as a first step. State police is a big subject that requires constitutional amendment. But at least we've agreed on community policing, which is the first step. It is the community police that will one day transmit into state police when the constitution is amended.
So there's been a lot of talk, lessons to be drawn from what we have seen in the country and perhaps how we can move forward. But it looks so much that leaders are perhaps hitting the nail on the head on how we can go from here. Let me show you what the governor of Ekiti State and the chairman of the Governors Forum, Kayode Fayemi, said, and I quote him now. He says, for over a decade, several analysts have noted that our massive youth population could be a major demographic advantage to our country if it is properly harnessed. Years of neglect and failure to make the right investment to support this population is now quite predictably turning into a major disruptive force and a time bomb. I'm afraid that the bomb has started to tick. We must therefore act fast and start now to create systems and provide opportunities for our young people and make it possible for them to attain their God-given potentials. He went further to say, what we need is a fundamental re-engineering of our governance system in a way that will make our country work better for everyone. That's Kayode Fayemi saying Nigeria's unfinished greatness. Some eminent Nigerians have come together and they are saying there is a need to fix Nigeria's governance structure to be able to allow it deliver on the aspirations of the average Nigerian people. One of such Nigerians is Mr. Frank Nweke, a former Minister of Information and Communications. He's a co-chairperson of the Fixed Politics Nigeria. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you indeed, Mr. Nweke, for joining us tonight. And let's take the conversation from the point where the governor of Kaduna State stopped and where Governor Fayemi said that there is a need for re-engineering. The governor of Kaduna State says there is a conversation around state policing, but they will start from the issue of community policing. From your standpoint, it does look like the conversation we've had several years, but where do we begin?
I want to say that I completely agree with Governor Fayemi. He couldn't have put this better. The conversations around the youth bulge in Nigeria, it's not something of today. As a matter of fact, as far back as 2010, there was a report called the Next Generation Report, put together based on a research by the British Council in Nigeria, which analyzed the characteristics of Nigeria's population, and then pointed out at the time that if the Federal Republic of Nigeria did not do anything urgently to deal with this youth bulge, that we were going to have the kind of cataclysmic events that started to unfold in the last few weeks. And so I completely agree with Kayode Fayemi on what he said. We must pay attention to our entire population, not even just our youth population, but more so our youth population, because the statistics available shows that about 70% of Nigerians are aged between 15 and about 50, between the ages of 15 and 50 years. It is one of the youngest populations in the world, and so we must undertake very specific and direct efforts to really educate this segment of our population, make sure they are healthy, that this segment of our population actually learn skills that enable them to be competitive and to be able to realize their God-given potentials, that this segment of our population, the talents inherent within this segment of our population is allowed to germinate to its fullest, and that this segment of our population must be allowed through investment in education to be very competitive and to be able to really help our country to attain its full potential. If we do not do this, you can be sure that they will decide to do it by themselves, and that is exactly what we saw in the last 4 weeks in our country. So I agree completely with Governor Fayemi. Now, if I may proceed on the comment made by Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna State, a good friend of mine. Well, yes, insecurity is a major problem. Now, I doubt very much if it is just about community policing. We've been experimenting with community policing for some time. It is not something that started today. So why do you keep doing the same thing over and over again if it's not yielding the desired results? One scientist, Einstein, said it just it just shows that you need to just rethink your own your engagement strategy. And so I believe that ultimately what must happen is that sufficient powers must be devolved to the Nigerian states. And this is a conversation that has been going on for decades. I was part of the 2014 National Conference, and this was a major point of agitation and consensus at that conference. And of course, the conference report was very expansive, was very detailed, and regrettably, the government of the day at the time, the PDP government at the time, President Jonathan, and the Senate at the time did not do anything about it. Now, the issues have come back, and again, I'm glad that people like Governor Fayemi, people like Governor El-Rufai, and then indeed the socio-cultural organizations within this country, the Ohanaeze Ndigbo, the Pan-Niger Delta Organization, the Middle Belt Forum, the Northern Elders Forum have spoken out with maturity, with clarity, with patriotism, that the government of today must step up to its responsibility, provide leadership, and do something that can help to really hold our nation together, but on terms that will be acceptable to all concerned.
Well, I mean, I understand and I'm aware now that eminent Nigerians like yourself, you are a co-chairperson of that group. It's called the Fix Politics Initiative in Nigeria. The kind of people that are under that umbrella gives one a sense of what could come in the next few months in Nigeria. And your plan is to fix politics. What is this all about?
Okay. Well, Sheung, I lost you for a moment. But I think I get the gist of what you are. I think I get the gist of your question. And if you can hear me, I'm going to try to provide some insight into what fixed politics is about. Now, this is not a conversation that started today. This conversation has been on for over 12 months. And fixed politics is an idea premised on the fact that we believe that our political system is broken. Politics in Nigeria is broken. It is an initiative which seeks to encourage a sort of rerouting, just the kind of thing that you find when you are using Google Map and then you miss your way. When you miss your way, what does the Google Map say to you? The voice says to you, oh, rerouting, we must reroute, we must course correct the politics of Nigeria. Why do we have to do this? We have to do this because this politics is not working for the citizens of this country. This politics has brought about endemic poverty. This politics has fostered endemic corruption. This politics has not enabled our people to get the education they require. This politics has not enabled our people to be secure. This politics has not enabled our people to really gain from the kind of infrastructural investments in infrastructure that is required. The vulnerable members of our society especially have not benefited from this broken politics. And I'm going to try to analyze to you what our research has showed, right? Now, look at politics as a tripod, say on the basis of a triangle, okay? At the apex of that triangle is what we call is where you have the regulators. Who are those you have at the regulatory point? It is the judiciary. It is institutions like INEC. It is the legislature, okay? It is, like the constitution that is there, which is the body of laws that governs Nigeria. Then let us look at the left base corner, the left-hand side of the triangle. At that left-hand corner, you have the political class. Then at the right-hand corner, you have the electorate, okay? Now, this is supposed to be a perfect democracy, that in a perfect democracy, this tripod should cooperate for the benefit of the people, to really make sure that there is security, to make sure there is good governance, to make sure that there is sufficient investment in education, to make sure that our judiciary works, to make sure that our INEC works, to make sure that there's investment in infrastructure, to make sure that there's innovation, to make sure that the Nigerian nation is competitive, to make sure that people have the opportunity to achieve their full potential.
All right, Mr. Nweke, just for a moment.
A perfect democracy should be.
All right,
but
just for a moment.
As it is today,
just for a moment, we need to go on a break. I'll allow you to continue, and also the reason why this is coming at such a time in our history and the state of our politics and how what this, in the end, hopes to achieve. We get to that when we come back from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So there are a lot of conversations on the table about the state of the nation. People are meeting, leaders are talking about security, how we can keep the nation together, the issue of restructuring, state police, the economy, infrastructure. But how can we get all of these right? Some eminent Nigerians are coming together and they say, what is needed is to fix the politics of Nigeria, then we can have a way forward. Frank Onweke is a former Minister of Information in Nigeria and is a co-chairperson of the Fixed Politics Nigeria. And we're having this conversation with him on the way forward for Nigeria, the state of our nation. Thank you so much, Mr. Onweke, for being here tonight. You were explaining, I'll allow you to land on that thought on the purpose of a fixed politics.
Yes, thank you so much. So I spoke to you that we're looking at politics as a tripod. So at the apex, you have the regulatory institutions, the constitution, the legislature, the Independent National Electoral Commission, the legislature. They are there as regulators. Now let's look at the left-hand lower base of one corner of the triangle. We have the political class there. Okay, and so there's the political class are there. They are supposed to provide the public goods. Okay, they are supposed to provide us education. We're supposed to provide infrastructure. We're supposed to exterminate poverty. We're supposed to invest in infrastructure. We're supposed to really ensure security of lives and property. That is what the political class is supposed to do as a government, right? Then on the right-hand corner, you have the electorate. Okay, and this electorate, we are the people. This is where you have the citizens. Okay, but what is happening today is that the political class, it appears to us, based on this is outcome of a research findings, that the political class has appropriated both the electorate and even the regulatory aspects of democracy. And so what we have today is a monopolistic democracy where just one group of people have appropriated the powers of state, the powers of the electorate for themselves. And now the balance of power is completely skewed against the citizens who are too poor and therefore are willing to sell a very important power they have, the power to vote and choose their leadership. They are too poor, and so this thing is taken away from them. They are powerless to even complain because they are right there, uneducated, unhealthy, and they live on a day-by-day basis. And so what is happening is that what we're trying to do with fixed politics is to see clearly that this situation is not sustainable. So we are going to be we're investing in ways to really empower this electorate, to get them to be more engaged, to reinforce what we call the office of the citizen, reinforce it in such a way that they become more conscious of their role in a democracy, to help them understand that the political class are at their service and not the other way around, by ensuring civic education, encouraging them to participate in elections, and really educating them to help them to really discern the kinds of candidacies or candidates that may show up in an election.
So, yeah.
On the case of the political class, we're hoping that by the kind of intervention that we're now making, that we are going to force political parties to embrace candidates who have the capacity, who have the track record, who have the integrity, and who are really values-driven, and to be the ones that emerge as candidates and to be able to really compete on the basis of ideas. We believe that by so doing, and once the electorate becomes very, very aware of their rights and are able to discern between these candidates, then political parties are compelled, because the kind of youth movement you now see today, the kind of consensus and activism that you're seeing today, would have to compel the political class to bring about change. Of course, we're also interested in pursuing political reforms, right? And so we're happy that the legislature is already investing time and resources one more time in trying to bring about improved voting systems, to bring about improved governance systems, and we welcome this, and we are committed to working with them to really make sure that these things are done holistically, and these things are done in a way that brings about impactful change in the entire polity. We're also investing in what we call a school for public policy and good governance, right? And the whole idea is, okay, if you say this political class is degenerate and not doing the right thing, we want to be able to invest in training young Nigerians on governance, on what politics is all about, on what service is all about, in an ethical manner, in a values-driven manner. So that is also part of what we're trying to do. So it's an holistic approach. It's a very
All right.
political approach to
So,
trying to fix the politics
Mr. Nweke,
in Nigeria.
there is a very fundamental issue here. And apart from a general issue affecting the black world and the African continent in terms of governance and leadership, what has your group discovered as a major impediment to Nigeria growth and development?
Okay, okay, very well. So there are a number of issues around. There are a number of. I mean, the leadership. Okay, our political system, the way it is practiced. I think that it is the practice of it really. It's not so much the system. It is the way that we practice it. Okay, so the caliber of persons that you have in politics is a major issue, and these are the things that have constrained the leadership across all levels. And so when we talk about leadership, we're not. You know, it would be remiss of anybody to suggest that you're focused on federal leadership. You're also focused on leadership at the local government. You're focused on leadership at the state level. You're focused on leadership even in the private sector. We are focused on leadership even in the families. We understand that the problem is systemic. And of course, it is this failure of leadership that has fueled corruption, that has fueled the insecurity in the country. This is this failure of leadership that has fueled economic mismanagement in the country. It is this failure of leadership that has sort of failed to make the investments required to really provide the infrastructure needed for people to really realize their full potentials and for businesses to thrive. And so we believe that leadership is key. Everything revolves around politics. Everything revolves around politics. There is no business in this country today, or anywhere in the world, that is more important than politics. It is the politics that determines the quality of businesses that you have. It is politics that determines the quality of your schools or your education system, the outcomes. It is politics that determines the quality of your healthcare system. It is politics that determines whether the young people of this country will realize their full potential or not. It is politics that determines the respectability of this nation amongst the Committee of Nations. It is politics that determines the investments that will be made in our young people, okay, on an ongoing basis. So politics is key.
All right.
And that is why we're talking about fixing politics. That is the root cause of the matter. If you don't fix politics, then for Nigeria, it's only a question of time.
Let's wind down now and let's wrap up the conversation. In 30 seconds, if you may give us your final thought on the program. And so practically speaking, Mr. Nweke, where do you begin from and how do you tackle the problem? Is your end goal saying in 2023, we must start seeing the practicality of some of your ideas? Is that the end goal? Just in 30 seconds.
Well, listen, Nigeria's problem is some of the problems we're speaking about today are systemic. And it would be naive for anyone to even suggest that these problems were created in the last 4 years. No. Our submission is that these problems have stacked up over the last 60 years since our independence. It would be interesting. I was reading something recently. Go and see part of the speech by the six majors or something, where they said that part of the reason why they came to government at the time was because ministers and the government officials had appropriated the Nigerian state and then at the expense of the people. And so 60 years after, a pertinent question is what has changed? Nothing has changed. The people are still at the mercy of the political class, right? And so we believe that trying to sort things out is not it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so part of what we're going to concentrate on in going forward is massive investment in citizen awareness, encouraging citizens to become aware of the power they have as citizens, encouraging citizens to become engaged in the political process, encouraging citizens to go into politics, encouraging citizens to ask questions, encouraging citizens to demand accountability, encouraging citizens to know their representatives, to know their senators, to know their governors, and of course, to be able to reach their president across every medium that is available and to demand answers when things have not been done. But more importantly, we also want citizens to realize that these government can only do so much. If you don't get involved as citizens, then it will be, then you have no right to really complain. You must get involved. You must get involved by demanding answers across levels of government. You must be mindful of your civic duties. You must be mindful of the power you have as a citizen. And that without the citizens, there's no government. Without the citizens, there's no democracy. So we're not going to wait until It is election time for the political class to come. We're going to go to them. We're going to demand answers from them. And that is the kind of, this will be my concluding remarks. Thank you.
Mr. Franklin Weke, former Minister of Information and the co-chairperson of Fix Politics Nigeria. It does look like there is some very huge step being made in fixing things in Nigeria, and we wish you and your group the very best. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheon.
Well, and that's how we'll leave it, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.